Aaron had always been curious about the edges of human exploration. As a young man, he had joined the colony on the remote planet of Urindor, eager for adventure and the chance to see worlds no human had walked before. Most settlers stayed close to the main base, content with their routines and predictable safety. But Aaron liked the wild places, the areas where danger mixed with discovery. It was in those places that he felt alive. On one unusually misty morning, he decided to explore a stretch of forest near the northern cliffs. The air was thick with a greenish fog, and the sound of alien birds echoed among the trees. The forest had an odd serenity, almost as if it was waiting for him. Aaron carried a small pack with supplies, a scanner, and his weapon, not because he expected trouble, but because he knew the forest could hide surprises. After walking for hours, he noticed something strange. The ground appeared disturbed, as if something had been torn apart. Trees were scratched, leaves shredded, and footprints, both human and alien, marred the soft soil. He followed the trail carefully, his curiosity outweighing any fear. Soon he came upon a small clearing. There, huddled beneath a broken shelter made of twisted metal and torn fabric, was a woman unlike any he had seen before. Her skin shimmered faintly with a pattern of glowing lines, faintly illuminating the fog around her. Her eyes were large and expressive, colored a deep silver that seemed to reflect everything around her. Two small children clung to her sides, trembling and shivering. Aaron froze for a moment, unsure how to react. The sight of the family struck him like a punch. They were clearly injured and terrified, and the alien woman, though graceful even in her weakness, radiated exhaustion and despair. He took a cautious step forward. "Hey, are you okay? Can I help?" His voice sounded foreign even to his own ears, unsure if she would understand. The woman looked at him, fear flickering across her face. She shook her head slightly and pressed herself closer to her children. She pointed to the sky, then to her body, indicating the danger that had come to them. Her voice when she spoke was soft and melodic, with strange tones that Aaron couldn't fully comprehend. But her gestures were clear. She needed help, and she needed it urgently. Aaron knelt down, keeping his hands visible. He reached into his pack and took out food rations and water. Carefully, he laid them near the family. The woman hesitated, then slowly allowed one of her children to crawl forward and take a small piece of food. The child's eyes were wide and fearful, yet hunger won over. The younger one followed, and finally the mother took a sip of water from a container he handed her. Through small gestures and broken words, Aaron learned a little more. The woman's name was Leora, and her children, twins, were named Kaelin and Sierra. She had once belonged to a thriving colony of her species, which humans had known little about. Marauders, humans or aliens, Aaron could not tell, had attacked the colony, destroying everything. Leora had escaped, carrying her children, but she had nowhere to go. The ruins of her home lay further into the forest, too dangerous to approach. Aaron's heart ached. Humanity had always been about survival, yes, but also about compassion. He could not leave them here, not in the middle of an alien forest, with predators and scavengers potentially nearby. He made a decision that would change his life forever. He would help them. "Come with me," he said gently. "I can take you to safety." Leora hesitated, her silver eyes scanning the misty forest. She seemed to weigh the risks, measuring the sincerity in his voice. After a long pause, she nodded, leaning on him as he helped her to her feet. The children clung tightly to her, trusting her judgment but trembling at every sound. The journey back to the main settlement was slow. Leora's wounds were significant but not life-threatening, and Aaron supported her as they walked. The children occasionally fell behind, exhausted, and he had to carry them one at a time. Through this, Aaron felt a strange, unfamiliar warmth, a sense of purpose that went beyond exploration or survival. He was becoming a protector, a guardian. When they finally reached the edge of the human settlement, a few settlers spotted them. Most stared in shock, unsure what to make of the alien family. Some whispered that Aaron had gone too far, that this was dangerous territory. One older man stepped forward, scowling. "You shouldn't be bringing them here," he said. "We don't know their species, and it could be trouble." Aaron looked at him squarely. "They are in danger. They are innocent. We can't turn them away." The man huffed and shook his head, but did not stop him. There was no immediate threat to the aliens inside the settlement, at least. Aaron found temporary shelter in a small, abandoned cabin near the edge of town. He cleaned Leora's wounds as best he could and used some medicine he had brought for emergencies. The children watched quietly, unsure whether to trust him fully, but the gentle way he treated their mother helped ease their fear. Night fell and the settlement seemed quiet, almost peaceful. Leora, exhausted from the day's events, finally allowed herself to rest. She looked at Aaron with eyes that carried both gratitude and caution. Words were few between them, but a silent understanding began to grow. She had been abandoned, betrayed, and left alone in the universe. Aaron's presence was a small but powerful proof that not all beings were cruel or indifferent. The next morning, Aaron gathered food and water again, thinking about what he could do next. Leora's children were playful, despite everything, and their laughter brought a fragile hope to the cabin. He realized that helping them would not be easy. Other settlers might still object. The dangers in the forest were still real. But he also knew something profound. Humans had a chance to show kindness in a universe that often seemed cruel. Over the next few days, Aaron worked tirelessly. He repaired the cabin, made a small garden for fresh food, and tried to communicate more with Leora. He learned some words of her language, and she learned some human phrases. There were awkward moments, of course, misunderstandings, accidental spills, laughter at mistakes, but gradually a bond formed. The children began to call him father in their tongue, though softly, hesitantly, as if testing whether this connection could last. One evening, while Aaron sat near a fire outside, watching Leora tend to the garden, he realized something he hadn't expected. He cared for them not just out of duty or pity, but truly, deeply. He would fight to protect them. He would face any threat, endure any hardship to keep them safe. Leora, noticing the seriousness in his gaze, understood without words. Perhaps she thought this human could be more than a stranger. Perhaps he could be family. The forest beyond the settlement still loomed with unseen dangers. Marauders could return at any time. Predators still stalked the edges of the forest. But for the first time, Aaron and the alien family had a fragile, flickering hope. Together, they were not entirely alone. And in a universe full of uncertainty, that small spark of safety and trust was enough to drive them forward. Aaron knew this was only the beginning. The road ahead would be difficult. The bonds of trust and friendship would be tested. But one thing was certain, he would not abandon them. Humanity's strength, its compassion, its courage, it would guide him. Leora and her children had no other choice, yet in that moment they felt a small miracle. They were no longer completely alone. The night sky stretched endlessly above them, alien stars twinkling in distant constellations. Aaron looked at them and smiled faintly. He was a human, far from his home planet, but he had found a purpose greater than exploration or adventure. He had found a family that needed him. And perhaps in helping them survive, he would discover something equally vital for himself. The meaning of loyalty, courage, and love that transcended species. In the silence of the night, Kaelin and Sierra slept peacefully beside their mother, unaware of the dangers that still lurked in the forest. Aaron kept watch, scanning the dark, listening to the sounds of the alien world, ready for anything. The story of this unlikely family was only beginning, and already it promised challenges, growth, and triumphs that neither human nor alien could have predicted. For now, though, they rested. And for the first time in many months, Leora allowed herself to hope. Days passed, and Aaron settled into a routine with Leora and her children. Every morning, he would gather food, check supplies, and repair parts of the cabin that had been damaged by storms or wild animals. Leora, despite her injuries still healing, taught him about her species, how they communicated, their customs, and how they raised children. Kaelin and Sierra listened quietly at first, but slowly their curiosity won over, and they began mimicking Leora's gestures and words. Aaron found himself smiling more than he had in months. The forest surrounding the settlement was beautiful but dangerous. Strange creatures lurked among the thick foliage, some small and harmless, others large and deadly. Aaron knew that surviving here meant understanding the land as much as helping Leora's family. He spent hours mapping paths, noting where water could be found, and identifying areas that were unsafe. He taught the children to recognize dangerous plants and animals, though with great care, not wanting to frighten them. One afternoon, while Aaron was gathering firewood, he heard a rustling in the underbrush. His weapon was ready, but before he could see what it was, Kaelin shouted. The boy had wandered too close to a small clearing where a predator, something like a mix of a large cat and a lizard, was crouched ready to strike. Aaron reacted instantly. He grabbed a heavy branch and swung it with all his strength, startling the creature. It hissed and fled back into the forest, leaving Kalen trembling but unharmed. "That was close," Aaron said, his voice shaking slightly. He knelt and pulled Kalen into a hug. "You have to stay near me and your mother, okay?" Kalen nodded, his wide eyes still fixed on the trees. Sierra clung to her mother, who smiled faintly, pride and worry mixing in her expression. Leora spoke softly to the children in her language, and Aaron caught a few words: reassurance, safety, stay close. Though he did not understand everything, the meaning was clear. Over the next days, Aaron focused on more than just survival. He wanted to give Leora and her children some sense of normalcy, something beyond fear and hunger. He built small toys from scraps he found around the settlement and scavenged materials to make a play area. Kalen and Sierra's laughter returned, small but genuine, and Leora watched with a mixture of relief and wonder. She had not expected anyone to care for her family so completely. Humans were known for their stubbornness, but Aaron's kindness went beyond what she had imagined. But life on Erendor was never simple. One evening, a distant sound reached Aaron's ears, a faint, rhythmic clatter almost like footsteps on metal. He froze, scanning the trees. The sound grew louder, closer, and then he saw them, a group of scavengers moving through the forest, armed and dangerous. Aaron's stomach tightened. He had hoped that by keeping Leora and her children hidden, they could avoid attention, but it seemed the marauders had found them. He ran back to the cabin, finding Leora and the children already tense. He explained quickly, using gestures and simple words. Leora's eyes widened in fear, but there was no panic. She trusted him. Aaron prepared the cabin for defense, barricading doors and windows as best he could. He instructed Leora to stay with the children and keep low, while he positioned himself near the entrance, ready to confront the threat. When the scavengers arrived, they were startled to find someone waiting for them. Aaron's determination surprised even him. He did not hesitate. Using a combination of cunning and brute strength, he managed to scare them off, forcing them to retreat deeper into the forest. They would return, he knew, and next time they might be more prepared. But for now, the family was safe. The adrenaline faded slowly, leaving Aaron exhausted. He sank to the ground, leaning against the cabin wall. Leora approached him, placing a gentle hand on his shoulder. Her touch was light, but it carried warmth and gratitude. Aaron looked at her, feeling a mix of relief and something deeper, something he could not yet name. "You are brave," she said softly, her words careful but full of meaning. "You protect us even when danger is near." "Not all humans would do this." Aaron shrugged, embarrassed. "I don't feel brave, I just can't leave you alone." Leora nodded, understanding perfectly. She had learned much about humans from past travelers, but Aaron was different. He did not seek reward or recognition. His actions came from something innate, something fundamental about his species: compassion, courage, and a desire to protect the vulnerable. As the days turned into weeks, Aaron and Leora grew closer. She began sharing stories of her home, of the colony that had been destroyed. Kalen and Sierra listened, wide-eyed, learning about their heritage even as they adapted to their new life. Aaron felt honored to witness these moments, to be part of their world. He also realized that he was learning from them, their resilience, their hope, their ability to find joy even in suffering. One morning, the children fell ill. It started as a fever, low and manageable, but it quickly worsened. Aaron panicked. The local settlement had no medicine for alien physiology, and human treatments were ineffective. He remembered Leora mentioning a rare herb that grew deep in the forest, one known to heal members of her species. It was a dangerous place, far from any safety. But there was no choice. He had to go. Leora protested, but Aaron would not be swayed. "I will return," he promised. "I won't leave you. I'll get what you need." He ventured into the dense forest, relying on both the knowledge Leora had shared and his own instincts. The path was treacherous. He crossed streams, climbed steep ridges, and avoided predators that lurked behind every shadow. Hours passed, and he began to doubt whether he would find the herb in time, but he refused to give up. Humanity's persistence, their unwillingness to surrender in the face of adversity, drove him forward. Finally, he reached a secluded grove, where the herb glowed faintly in the dim light, much like Leora's skin. He gathered as much as he could carry, careful not to damage the plants. On the way back, he encountered a pack of wild creatures, larger and more aggressive than anything he had seen. Using both skill and instinct, he managed to fend them off, though not without injury. Pain surged through his body, but he pushed on, driven by the thought of the children's faces, pale and weak, waiting for him. When he returned to the cabin, Leora rushed to help him. He handed her the herbs, explaining how to prepare them. She worked quickly, mixing and brewing the medicine while Aaron tended to the children, calming them, holding them close as the potion took effect. Slowly, Kaelin and Sierra began to recover, their fever subsiding, their strength returning. Relief washed over Aaron in waves. He had succeeded not through sheer power but through determination and love. That night, as the cabin settled into quiet, Leora sat beside Aaron. "You risked yourself for us," she said, her voice trembling with emotion. "Not because you had to, but because you chose to." "That is rare among humans." Aaron shook his head. "I couldn't do otherwise. You and the children, you are my responsibility now. I made that choice when I found you." Her eyes softened, and for the first time there was no fear in them, only trust. She reached out, touching his hand lightly. The gesture was simple, but it carried the weight of gratitude, admiration, and a deepening bond. Aaron felt a warmth he had never known, a connection that went beyond species, beyond words. The forest remained dangerous, the settlement still wary, and the threat of marauders ever present. But Aaron, Leora, and the children had survived another challenge, proving their resilience. Each day brought new lessons, new fears, and new moments of joy. The children laughed again, their trust in Aaron growing stronger. Leora smiled more often, her hope rekindled. And Aaron discovered a purpose he had never anticipated, not just survival, but protection, family, and connection. He realized that life on Erendor was not only about exploration or adventure. It was about forging bonds, about standing up for those who could not defend themselves, and about embracing the unknown with courage. In Leora and her children, he had found a reason to be brave every day. And as he looked at the glowing lines on Leora's skin, reflecting the light of the fire, he knew that their journey together was just beginning. In the heart of the alien forest, far from any human city or colony, a new family was forming. A human, once alone in his curiosity and courage, had become the protector of an abandoned alien woman and her children. The dangers of the world were many, but so were the rewards: love, trust, and the quiet triumph of compassion in a universe that often seemed indifferent. And as the stars glittered overhead, strange and distant, Aaron silently promised himself that he would face every threat, overcome every obstacle, and remain steadfast. For Leora and her children, for the fragile bond they shared, he would be more than a visitor to their world. He would be their guardian, their family, and perhaps, in time, their hope. Life in the small cabin began to settle into a fragile rhythm. The days were long, and the nights were still filled with tension, but Aaron, Leora, and the children began to feel a sense of safety they hadn't known in months. The forest still hummed with danger, but together, they had survived every threat so far. Each challenge strengthened their bond, and the walls of fear that had once surrounded Leora's heart began to crumble. One morning, while tending the small garden, Leora spoke quietly to Aaron. "Your presence, it changes things for us," she said, her silver eyes thoughtful. "I have survived alone for a long time. I thought I could endure anything. But now, with you here, I feel something different, something I did not expect." Aaron paused, unsure how to respond. He had never been good with words of emotion, but he understood her meaning. "I feel it too," he admitted. "I didn't come here to be a hero or to be part of your life, but now I can't imagine leaving you and the children. You're my responsibility now. I made that choice when I found you in the forest." Leora nodded slowly. "In my culture, there is a tradition, a way to honor someone who chooses to protect us, who becomes part of our family. It is more than survival. It is a bond, a commitment." Her gaze softened. "I want you to take that role. Will you become my husband in our way? Not just for me, but for the children, so we are truly united." Aaron was taken aback. The thought of marriage had never crossed his mind in the human sense, and yet the meaning behind it was clear. This was not a question of ceremony or words. It was a pledge of protection, loyalty, and family. He looked at Leora, then at Kaelin and Sierra playing nearby, laughing as if the world had suddenly grown brighter. He felt a weight and a joy all at once. "Yes," he said finally, his voice steady. "I will be your husband. I will protect you and the children no matter what." Leora smiled, a mixture of relief and gratitude washing over her features. The children ran to him, hugging him tightly. In that moment, Aaron realized that this bond went beyond species. Love, loyalty, and courage were universal. He had not expected this when he set out into the forest that first day, but he would not turn away. The days following the pledge were filled with both joy and preparation. Aaron knew that taking this role meant more than emotional connection. It meant protecting the family from any threat, and the forest around them was still dangerous. He began training himself and the children in basic survival skills. Kalen and Sierra were young but quick learners, eager to emulate their new father. Aaron taught them how to recognize dangerous plants and animals, how to move silently through the forest, and how to call for help if needed. Leora helped, showing them subtle ways to communicate silently and use their senses more acutely than humans could. Aaron also worked with Leora to fortify the cabin. They reinforced doors, built traps to alert them of intruders, and dug small hidden passages that could be used to escape in emergencies. Leora taught him ways to use the forest to their advantage, how to move silently, where the natural barriers were strongest, and how to blend into the environment. The children helped where they could, turning daily tasks into lessons in teamwork and courage. Despite the training and precautions, tension lingered. Aaron knew the marauders were still out there, likely planning their next move. He could sense it in the tracks he found near the edge of the forest and in the whispers of the wind through the trees. One evening, he decided it was time to prepare for the inevitable confrontation. "Leora, we need to be ready," he said. "They will come back, I can feel it. We have to make sure we can protect ourselves and each other." She nodded. "I know I have taught you what I can. But you must also trust in the children's abilities and in your own strength. Humans, you have something different. Persistence, ingenuity. It is not just your tools, but your mind that can protect us." Aaron smiled faintly, appreciating her words. He spent the following days mapping the forest, noting every hidden path and potential vantage point. He taught the children how to hide, how to move quickly and quietly, and how to use simple tools as weapons if necessary. Leora continued to guide them, showing them how to remain calm in danger and rely on instincts honed over generations. One afternoon, while checking the perimeter near a creek, Aaron spotted signs of movement, footprints that did not belong to any forest creature he knew. He followed the trail carefully, scanning the dense undergrowth. The tracks led to a small clearing where he found remnants of a previous scavenger camp. Supplies had been left behind, and the evidence suggested they had been watching, learning the cabin's routines. He returned immediately to the cabin, his mind racing. "They've been here," he said gravely. "They know where we are, we have to prepare for them." Leora's expression hardened. "Then we will be ready together." That night they held a quiet meeting, discussing strategies and assigning roles. Aaron would monitor the perimeter, Leora would remain with the children in a secure area, and they would have signals to communicate silently. Even the children participated, learning how to stay calm and alert. The atmosphere was tense but focused, hope tempered with caution. Days passed, and the anticipation of conflict hung heavy in the air. Then, one morning, it arrived. A distant roar echoed through the forest, followed by the sound of marching boots. The marauders had come, more numerous and organized than before. Aaron's heart pounded, but he did not falter. He had prepared for this, and he knew that courage and strategy could overcome numbers. Using the knowledge of the forest and the defenses they had built, Aaron led the family through a series of traps and hidden paths. The marauders were surprised at every turn, stumbling into pitfalls or alerting alarms that gave Aaron and Leora critical seconds to respond. The children watched from secure positions, learning that courage was not the absence of fear, but the ability to act despite it. Despite their planning, the battle was difficult. The marauders were relentless, but Aaron's determination never wavered. He fought strategically, using the terrain to his advantage, and relied on Leora's guidance and the children's quick thinking. Slowly, the tide turned. The marauders, frustrated and outmaneuvered, began to retreat. After hours of tense confrontation, silence finally returned to the forest. The cabin, though slightly damaged, still stood. The family had survived. Aaron knelt beside Leora, exhausted but unbroken. "We did it," he said, voice low and filled with relief. Leora reached out and touched his hand, her silver eyes glowing faintly in the fading light. "Yes," she said, "because we are together, because we trust each other. You have become more than a protector, Aaron. You are part of us, part of this family." The children ran to them, laughing with relief and joy. Kaelin hugged Aaron tightly, while Sierra clung to her mother, her small face bright with hope. In that moment, the cabin, the forest, and the stars above seemed to shine a little brighter. The family had survived not through luck, but through courage, strategy, and the bonds that connected them. In the days that followed, the forest was quieter. The threat of marauders still lingered, but the family had proven their strength. Aaron and Leora spent time repairing the cabin and teaching the children, while also sharing stories and laughter. They celebrated small victories, the children learning new words, a garden that finally thrived, a night without danger. Each day strengthened the trust and love that had begun to grow between them. Aaron reflected on the journey so far. He had come to Urindor seeking adventure, but he had found something far greater: purpose, family, and a bond that transcended species. Humanity's strength, courage, persistence, compassion had allowed him to survive and protect those who could not defend themselves. And in return, he had learned from Leora and the children resilience, hope, and the power of love in the face of adversity. Even as the stars shone overhead, alien and distant, Aaron felt a sense of peace. The journey was far from over, and new challenges would inevitably come, but together they were stronger than any threat. They were a family united not by chance, but by choice, courage, and unwavering loyalty. And in the quiet of the forest, as the fire flickered and the children slept peacefully, Aaron knew that he had found a new mission in life: to protect, to love, and to ensure that this fragile, extraordinary family survived and thrived in a universe that could often be cruel and unforgiving. The bond between human and alien, between protector and protected, had become unbreakable. The forest no longer seemed entirely hostile. It was a world where courage, determination, and love could carve out a place for safety and hope. And Aaron, once a lone adventurer, had become the heart of that place, the center of a family that had survived against all odds. The days after the last attack were tense but quiet. Aaron, Leora, and the children worked together to repair the cabin and strengthen the defenses. Though the marauders had retreated, Aaron knew they would return. His instincts, sharpened by months of living on Urindor, told him that patience and preparation were now their greatest allies. Leora guided him in using the forest's natural resources more effectively, while the children helped in small, meaningful ways, collecting herbs, stacking wood, or simply watching carefully from safe spots. Aaron spent hours scanning the surrounding forest, mapping every ridge, clearing, and potential hiding place. He taught Kaelin and Sierra how to recognize patterns in movement, how to predict where danger might come from. Leora instructed them on silence, patience, and how to read subtle changes in the environment. It was more than survival training. It was teaching them to think, to adapt, and to trust their instincts. One evening, as the alien sun dipped below the horizon, Aaron noticed signs that told him the marauders were coming again. The broken branches, disturbed underbrush, and faint footprints all led toward their cabin. This time, they would be stronger, more determined. Aaron returned to the cabin and gathered the family. "They're coming back," he said calmly but firmly. "We have prepared for this. We will face them together." Leora nodded, placing a hand on his shoulder. "We trust you. We have learned from you and you from us. Together, we are strong." Aaron took a deep breath, feeling the weight of responsibility but also the power of connection. This was no longer just about survival. It was about protecting his family and standing as a symbol of hope. Kaelin and Sierra looked at him, their small faces serious. They understood that danger was near, but they also understood that courage was not about being fearless. It was about acting despite fear. When the marauders finally arrived, they were met with more than a single human. Aaron had transformed the cabin and its surroundings into a fortress using both human ingenuity and Leora's knowledge of the forest. Simple traps, hidden pitfalls, and warning systems slowed the attackers. Aaron moved with precision, using strategy to counter their numbers. Leora guided the children from a secure position, signaling when to move or hide, turning every moment into a lesson in awareness and teamwork. The battle was tense. The marauders, frustrated by the traps and prepared defenders, pressed harder, but Aaron's resolve never faltered. He anticipated their movements, set ambushes, and used the forest itself to their advantage. The trees, shadows, and terrain became part of their defense. Every maneuver was calculated, every action deliberate. Even the children contributed in small ways, watching, observing, and following instructions perfectly. Hours passed. The marauders were clever, but they were outmatched. They underestimated the bond between human and alien, and they underestimated the courage that arose from love and trust. Finally, the attackers began to retreat, defeated not just by force, but by strategy, preparation, and the unyielding spirit of a family who refused to be broken. When silence returned, the forest felt almost peaceful. Aaron surveyed the area, ensuring no threat remained. Leora came to him, her face shining with relief and gratitude. The children ran to them, laughing despite the exhaustion. Kalen threw his arms around Aaron, and Sierra clung to Leora, their trust and love evident in every gesture. Aaron knelt, hugging both children and then Leora. "We did it," he said softly. "We survived together." Leora smiled, her silver eyes reflecting both pride and deep emotion. "We are stronger than I imagined, stronger because of you, because of all of us together." The days that followed were filled with a sense of victory, but also reflection. Aaron and Leora knew they could never let their guard down completely. Yet, for the first time since finding them in the forest, they allowed themselves to feel something rare: hope. The children played freely, exploring the cabin and garden, their laughter a soundtrack of life reclaiming itself. Aaron and Leora spent quiet moments together, talking, planning, and simply being. They were no longer just survivor and protector. They were family, united in purpose and love. The small settlement nearby, which had once regarded Leora's family with suspicion, began to notice the change. News of their courage and survival spread quietly. Other settlers started leaving small supplies near the edge of the forest, gifts of solidarity and trust. Humanity, it seemed, could recognize bravery and compassion even in those they did not fully understand. One afternoon, as Aaron walked with Kalen and Sierra near the edge of the forest, he noticed how much they had grown in confidence and skill. The children moved with a quiet grace, alert to their surroundings, but not afraid. They trusted their father, and through him, they had learned to trust themselves. Leora followed, watching them with a soft smile, her heart lighter than it had been in months. Aaron reflected on how much had changed since that first morning in the misty forest. He had found a family in the most unexpected way, in the most dangerous circumstances. He had faced fear, uncertainty, and violence, and he had emerged not just unbroken, but stronger, wiser, and deeply connected to beings he had once thought too different to understand. One night under the alien stars, Aaron and Leora sat by the fire. The children slept safely inside the cabin. "You have given us something precious," Leora said, her voice quiet but certain. "You chose to protect, to care, and to love. Not everyone could do that. You are more than human, you are the heart of our family." Aaron smiled faintly, feeling a warmth spread through him that was more satisfying than any adventure or triumph. "I only did what I had to do," he said, "but I'm glad I found you. You and the children have become my world. I can't imagine life without you." Leora reached for his hand, holding it gently. "We are stronger together. Our bond is not just survival, it is life, it is hope, and it will carry us forward." The forest, once a place of fear and uncertainty, now seemed alive with possibility. The family had carved a place for themselves through courage, determination, and unwavering loyalty. They had faced danger, learned from each other, and built a life that was more than mere survival. It was a life worth protecting, worth celebrating. Weeks passed. The forest remained calm, as if respecting the family's resilience. Aaron, Leora, Kalen, and Sierra worked together every day, cultivating the garden, exploring safe parts of the forest, and continuing their training. Each day brought small victories: a successful hunt, a new word learned, a trap improved. These moments, simple and unremarkable to outsiders, were monumental achievements for them, a testament to their growth, unity, and strength. Eventually, the settlement nearby began to accept Leora and her children fully. Humans and aliens alike saw the family as a symbol of cooperation, courage, and hope. Children played together, learning from one another, and adults respected the bond that had been forged in adversity. Aaron's bravery and compassion had become known quietly but clearly. Humanity could rise above fear, prejudice, and danger to protect those who could not defend themselves. One morning, Aaron stood on a ridge overlooking the forest. The sun rose, casting golden light over the trees, and for a moment the world seemed perfectly still. Leora appeared beside him, her children holding her hands. "Look at what we have," she said softly. "Not just the cabin, not just safety, but life, together." Aaron nodded, feeling a deep sense of fulfillment. He thought about the journey, the fear, the struggle, the nights spent awake, watching over the family. And he realized that everything had been worth it. The challenges, the dangers, the uncertainty, they had all led to this. A family united by trust, courage, and love. As the wind whispered through the trees, Aaron silently promised himself that he would continue to protect this family, no matter what the universe threw at them. Humanity's spirit, its perseverance, empathy, and determination would guide him. And in return, he would learn from Leora and the children resilience, hope, and the power of connection that transcended species. That night, the family gathered by the fire. Leora told stories of her home world, of ancestors and traditions. The children listened, wide-eyed, absorbing every word. Aaron joined in, sharing human stories of courage, survival, and ingenuity. Laughter and warmth filled the cabin, replacing fear and uncertainty. Outside, the forest was alive but no longer threatening. The stars shone above, distant and alien, yet comforting. For the first time, Aaron felt truly at peace. He had found purpose, family, and a place in a universe that often seemed indifferent. Humanity had triumphed, not through domination, but through courage, compassion, and unwavering loyalty. And so, the unlikely family continued their life on Urindor, facing challenges as they came, but always together. They had survived marauders, predators, and the uncertainty of an alien world. They had built a home, forged a bond that could not be broken, and discovered that love and courage were powerful enough to overcome any obstacle. In the quiet moments when the children slept and the fire crackled softly, Aaron looked at Leora and whispered, "We are a family, always, no matter what comes." She smiled, resting her head on his shoulder. "Always," she agreed. And for the first time since the colony had been destroyed, they all truly believed it. Together, they had turned fear into strength, despair into hope, and survival into a life worth living. The stars above watched silently as the family slept. A human had become more than a protector. He had become a husband, a father, and a symbol of hope. Leora and her children, once abandoned and alone, now thrived in the warmth of human courage and love. The forest, the dangers, the universe, they all mattered less than the bond they had created. And so, in a quiet corner of Urindor, life continued. Humanity had proven that even in alien worlds, its spirit could shine bright, protecting those in need, forging connections across species, and creating a family that could face anything together. The journey had been long and dangerous, but the destination, hope, love, and unity, was worth every step. The adventure was not over, but for now, the family could rest. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, but they would face them side by side. Aaron, Leora, Kaelin, and Sierra had survived, learned, and grown stronger. And in that survival, they had discovered something far greater, the true power of family, courage, and the human spirit.